Survival games have come a long way since Unreal World, and the genre only continues to grow and evolve as time goes on. Gamers have a virtually endless buffet of survival experiences that cater to any taste they might have. If you search best survival games on YouTube, you'll find tons of top 10 or top 15 lists that will vary slightly occasionally, but for the most part have a lot of the same titles in them. There's one game, however, that deserves to be in the conversation that is consistently being left off of these lists, and that game is Vintage Story. At first glance, you might think Vintage Story is just another Minecraft clone. Blocky terrain? Check. Crafting and survival elements? Check. Familiar sound effects? Check. But dig a little deeper than that first dirt block on the surface and you'll find one of the most intricate, rewarding, and downright brutal survival games on the market. Vintage Story doesn't just replicate Minecraft's formula, it refines it to near perfection. Quick note, I will mention Minecraft a few times in this video and make a few comparisons, and I want to be clear that I'm in no way trying to take anything away from Minecraft. I also love that game and think it offers the experience it sets out to offer. The only reason I'll be bringing it up and making comparisons is because I believe Vintage Story gets written off as just another Minecraft clone, and that's just not true. So what makes Vintage Story different? Let's start with the core survival mechanics. Unlike Minecraft, where progression is a few punch trees away, Vintage Story forces you to think like a true survivalist. You need to find and nap stones to make primitive tools before you can even think about chopping wood. The world is harsh and dangerous, with different biomes impacting you and your surroundings in different ways, requiring you to adapt to your surroundings at all times. And food? It's not just a matter of eating whatever you find. There's spoilage, nutrition balance, and seasonal changes that affect what's available and what can be grown. In other words, you're not just surviving, you're adapting to the circumstances of whatever area you find yourself in at any given time. The crafting system in Vintage Story is truly a work of art. It is perhaps my favorite crafting system in any game I've played. Instead of the traditional place ingredients, receive item system we're all familiar with, Vintage Story takes it to new levels in a few different ways. You need to physically shape clay into pottery and fire it in a pit kiln that you had to dig out and fill with the appropriate ingredients. When you're able to start processing ores into ingots, you must forge tools with a detailed metalworking system, from heating the ingots, shaping them, and cooling them to a usable state. You can even chisel blocks down to each pixel for endlessly custom designs in your builds. Everything takes effort, but that effort makes the rewards and successes feel earned. Never have I felt so accomplished to make a pickaxe as I did when I made my first one in Vintage Story. Dude, I'm so stoked. I'm so stoked to have completed that. As someone who generally enjoys the building above all else in these games, I can't tell you how satisfying it is to walk around my base and see all the detail I've chiseled into my home and its surroundings. There's such a sense of pride and accomplishment in my builds and equipment that's just different than I've gotten from other games, and it's due to the fact that I had to learn and work for every single bit of it. Vintage Story nails immersion in a way that few survival games do, which, for a game with a voxel-style world, is very impressive. We've learned over the last few years that just because a game is pixel art doesn't mean it can't also be beautiful, and Vintage Story definitely took that to heart. There's so much detail and care put into every pixel in this world that it really feels natural, and again, with your chisel, you can really take that to the next level. The atmosphere of the game is also something special. The dynamic weather system, the eerie darkness of deep caves, the unsettling sounds of something lurking just beyond your torchlight, it all combines to create a world that feels alive and hostile in the best possible way. At least once in every episode of my daily series, I think there's a moment where I just stop and appreciate the view. The skies are so pretty in this game. Winters in this game are particularly beautiful, which is a nice compromise because they're also quite brutal to manage. Exploration in Vintage Story is an adventure of its own. The game is filled with hidden ruins, treacherous cave systems, and remnants of a lost civilization, which, when paired with the atmosphere we just talked about, makes it such a unique experience. The world feels vast and alive and dangerous and interesting. It's a world begging to be explored, and as you begin to progress, you'll find yourself with no choice but to venture out into it, looking for the wide array of materials and resources you need to continue progressing. Prospecting and mining ore, for example, is such a deep, interesting system that demands you venture out. Unlike Minecraft, where any ore is available to you basically anywhere, some ore only spawns in certain regions, and it doesn't spawn all over the place. I won't spoil it here, but it's a very interesting system to learn as you go, and just one of the many deep systems Vintage Story has to offer. Perhaps my favorite thing about this game is how much there is to learn. There are so many deep, detailed systems in this game to familiarize yourself with as you progress, and it's not always as simple as just learning the basics and then repeating them for the higher tier stuff. Your ability to cook, or process and smith ores, or make clothing and armor will continue to evolve as you improve. It's also not a skill bar or a level that I'm talking about here. I'm talking about your ability to learn and do. You're really only limited by what you know how to do in this game. You'll find yourself getting faster with your clay forming and blacksmithing, finding optimal designs for your workspaces that allow you to flow more efficiently and adapt over time as you learn how to do more things. And there are so many more systems to get into than I'll talk about in this video. I'd even go as far as to say if you had a multiplayer world, different people could specialize in different skills and still not get bored. If you're someone who likes to be in-game in the first week, maybe this isn't the game for you, but if you're someone who likes to learn and discover things for as long as you're playing the game, you will love Vintage Story. Now, you may be asking, if Vintage Story is so amazing, why isn't it a household name? Well, I think it ultimately all boils down to visibility. It's an indie game developed by a small team without the marketing machine of larger studios. It lacks the legacy status of some of the other giants in the space, so it may be easy to overlook, especially since most people will see a voxel-style game and immediately think Minecraft clone. Perhaps the biggest thing holding this game back is accessibility, or more specifically, the fact that it's not available on Steam, and that's not a knock by any means. If they don't see fit to put it on Steam, more power to them, but I do think Vintage Story truly has the potential to become a staple in the industry with that kind of access. If you love survival games and you haven't tried Vintage Story, you're missing out on something special. It's more than just a Minecraft clone. In fact, it's really not a Minecraft clone at all. It's the next step in the evolution of what survival gaming can be. So why not give it a shot? Who knows, it might just become your new favorite game. I'll put a link in the description to the Vintage Story website where you can purchase the game for anyone that is interested. They have a 2-week or 10-hour refund window, so there's more than enough time to decide if you think it'll be a game you want to play long term. I've had no contact with the developers and am in no way affiliated with them, and it doesn't benefit me in any way to recommend this game to you or provide you with a link. I'm simply putting it there for accessibility. If you want to see a little more gameplay or play along with my journey through the game, I started a daily series when I was brand new to Vintage Story that at the time of this video is showing no signs of slowing down. I also have a series of guides I'm putting out as I continue to learn about the game. If either of those interest you, the playlists are on the screen now and also linked below. I appreciate you guys watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did and feel so inclined, you can hit the like button. And if you want to see more of what I'm doing on the channel, there's a subscribe button as well. Other than that, I do appreciate y'all. I hope you have a good one, and I'll see you in the next one.